when you watch the third movie, your first thought is, what was he thinking? And that's pretty good. Yeah, I think everyone has that in their mind. What was he thinking? And I'm going to go into more what he's thinking rather than like direct plot points. Like, there's not going to actually be many spoilers in here. There's going to be like things that happened and what was he thinking that led him to this point where he made it. And why do this panel? I've had Evangelion been one of my favorite series for a really long time. Back when it was really popular, everyone said it was the best, and it went through that phase where it was like, oh, it's so overrated. And now it's just kind of settling down, being still one of the best. But this movie was just so... I can't think of the proper word for saying what this movie is, because it's a lot of things. And I think it all boils down to like this transition Hideaki Anno himself is going through, and what he's doing with the franchise because of it. Which I think it's a decent direction to take it in. I just think the execution of the movie needs a bit more help. And I know Hideaki Anno panel with Hideaki Anno will be complete without just going over a brief summary of what he's done. This isn't exact, there's a lot of stuff out there. But some of his key influences were the space battleship Yamato. It's this really old epic story. You want to saber, you want to trip across the galaxy. He's also like the tokusatsu genre, which it doesn't really claim that his influences for Evangelion much at all, but it's just a key characteristic that he has a fondness for these old things. And two of his other big influences, he's been a big fan of Gundam, but not exactly a giant influence. But perhaps the bigger influence is Space Runway Gideon, which I also like that show, pretty much for the same reasons. I still like this third movie. And you have to go through it and see it. And like your first thoughts when you get done with anything from Gideon is that, what were they thinking? Gideon's notorious for the show ending with everybody dying. And a lot of people put that as a direct influence to what influenced Evangelion. It really shows when you get into it. He had other previous animation work, working under Team Mecha with Kitano. He did Macross. He did work with Miyazaki. In fact, they've been pretty much pals for a while, ever since he started working for him back on. They did Nausicaa. So a lot of Hideaki Anno's influences, well, not a lot of them, but Miyazaki's one of his big influences. And you'll see like Miyazaki say something and Anno says something similar because they're pretty much on the same page on the industry in general. He did other famous works like the Daikon 384 animations, worked on those. He was the animation director on Wings of Hanamese. I can't pronounce it, whatever. The Royal Space Force that we translated into for our title, for our release of it. Gunbuster, he does his first full director role on commercial products. Dynex's first commercial success. And the next one is something that you start seeing a lot of his works. Anno is able, you can quote him quite often, that he will put himself into his works. And that's kind of why usually he has really good characters going on, because they're all pulling something from him. And one thing that, when I was organizing this panel, I just wanted to here as a note, is that one of the main characters, Nadia, hates meat. And Anno himself hates meat. He's quoted in one interview as saying, like, if someone was like, we're going to kill you if you don't eat. And he's like, I'm fine with dying then. He's no fan of meat whatsoever. And then in the timeline, you get Evangelion. There's so much to talk about there. It's a really big show. He had lots of problems during it. And these problems kind of ran into when he made the end of Evangelion, just panel on itself. And then he started having plans after that, but he eventually parted with Gainax during the production of Hideaki Anno for there are at least two main reasons, but I can get into those. One was a conflict with the staff, well, the original creator. And the other one was that he was a bit upset with being turned down for his other projects. because he wanted to do a giant space epic himself. He wanted to do all those, and they wouldn't fund it. They were like, no, just keep working on this stuff. And then after he left Gainax, he did some live action work, and he just kind of milled around for a while, not really doing much. Eventually got married in 2002, and around 2006, he started on the rebuild movies. And why he started these rebuild movies? I mean, one, make money. And two, it's a lot of why this panel is going to be about. Like, what is he attempting to do with the movies? Especially the third one. This is you can just get this thing off of Google pretty easy. Just type in like Anime Expo interview from 96. And it's this whole page that's pretty much taken from 96. And a lot of it's stuff on his previous works, little influences. But the bottom right corner has a whole bunch of really insightful ones. Well, 3 of them are insightful. The first one up there on his next project, that's what he was planning to do. This was from 96. And what do you read, guys? Getting off the top of my head. But he wanted to do a giant space adventure, but they wouldn't fund that. That's why he ran into conflict with his own studio. Well, not his, it wasn't his, he was just a director. Founder and director, but. And then you have 2 really good paragraphs on the bottom on the future of the anime industry. And here's something you'll hear him still say, you'll hear Miyazaki has been saying that forever, because they really say a lot of the same things. Like, it's all about, oh yeah, we're not progressing, everyone's just making things that are already made, they're just following expectations. Yeah, they've been making always similar things the past 10 years, no sense of urgency. And he wants to like force people to go out again. That's what that, and what that means is, diversify your interests. And he goes into that in the next paragraph over, the final one, on getting into the industry. It's like, oh yeah, you want to be able to make animation, but you really have to want to branch out as well. It's not just enough to make a story, but to have the ambition to break out of your constraints as a storyteller. And I think perhaps the most telling thing on this is the very last line. I would guess, quote unquote, I would guess that the greatest, first quote, I would guess that the greatest thing anime has ever achieved is the fact that we're holding a dialogue right here now. So after everything he's saying, he's just thinking that animation is really good for expressing yourself. That because of anime, he's able to talk to people that he normally would not ever be able to convey any meaning to. And the paragraph above, it's just wants to challenge space, which, if you see a lot of his works, he really likes space. And on expressing through animation, oh yeah, that's the text from the previous paragraph. So what could be expressed in this rebuild that couldn't previously be done? I have some screenshots from the movie. And at one point, Shinji's walking by one guy that you don't see much from the series. And he's asking, Shinji walks by, and Ryuji's all like, hey, you want to go play some shogi? Which you don't really see much from the guy in the entire franchise, and all of a sudden, he wants to play a game. And then some key lines that pull out of dialogue. Well, wonderful room they got if playing games. That's the nerd headquarter game room. I think it needs some better lighting. But he's thanking Shinji, oh, thanks for the hobby. Well, confused, he's pulling out some tiles, like, see, I'm rather timid. And he's using the game as an excuse to talk to Shinji. Shinji's like, well, whatever. And I think that's really important for something that he's trying to get through the movie. Back on this for a second. This is taken from an interview. These are all taken from, you can find this one online, just also just up on YouTube. It's extracurricular lessons with Hideaki Anno, where they take him to teach animation to a bunch of kids from the school that he went to when he was young. And you got some things where he's teaching animation, but then you have these little cutaway segments where they're just talking with him, he's discussing his philosophy. Some of these are really good.
基本的には決断できたものを埋めていく作業、それを人に伝えられる自分をまともにしようとする努力、とにかくまともな手段で他人と関われない人たちがちょっとうがったことをしてなんとか自分と他人との間を保っていく、それが表現というものだと思います。少なくとも僕はそうです。アニメや映画をやることによって人と関わり続けることができる。
Yes. So you have him pretty much a decade before talking about, yeah, almost a decade from that. Well, the point is that he finds animation as pretty much the only way he can get out what he's thinking to other people. In this interview, like the whole time, like they have a clip from him at lunch. He's sitting alone by himself, eating lunch, and he's like, lunch is terrible, and all these kids, you don't know what to do with kids. I can't talk to kids. Well, I don't think anyone can talk to kids that easily too much, but he's going along that the only way he can express himself is through animation, and animation is his hobby, it's his passion, it's his drive. And you have here in the movie that you get this little snippet that everyone's always like, oh, Shinji is his self-insert. All the characters have something from him, from Anno himself. And there's just one example, because we go on, and we have everyone's favorite buddy romance of the of the franchise. Shinji and Karu, they're playing piano, and Karu loves playing piano, and Shinji gets to open up. And Shinji wants, as his quote on the right, he wants to be able to produce music even better. He just doesn't want to play music, he just wants to do something he's happy with. And Karu's response to, oh, you want to do something even better? Well, you want to improve at what you're doing. Just keep doing it until you get something you're happy with. It's like, if it doesn't work now, do it again. Keep doing it again. And I think this ties into something else. The title of the movie. Yeah, I have a point coming on this later, but this movie is pretty much his attempt to do something about a lot of things that he's feeling. It's pretty much, he's got some concerns on his mind, so he made a movie. He puts robots in it, in between. Or he sandwiches everything he's thinking in between some robots, but yeah. Another thing, he likes space. Oh, Shinji's like, oh yeah, just likes watching stars. He goes on later to say that, oh, space is really calming. It's like, you know what? The director likes space. He's just expressing anything that's on his mind is pretty much coming through the movie. And then light posts. You go through the entire franchise, you notice these power poles are everywhere. You go into the first episode, in the first Angel attacks, back in that, you got power lines flipping around everywhere, light posts everywhere, even through the movie. And the red picture there, that's the very last shot of the third movie. More light posts. Everywhere you go, you're going to see light posts. A little more of that. This is also taken from that same, him teaching animation people. Goes back to his hometown, there's a shopping arcade that he used to go to. It's pretty much closed down now.
子供の頃から憧れです。大人になってようやくプロとか歩けるので嬉しいです。電柱好きなんですね。昔から好きだと思うんですよ。なんか風景画を描くとですね、電柱とか街には人工構造物しか描かないんですよ。そこに働いている人間とかその方なんですね。当時先生に美術の絵だって言われたことだったんです。
And that's another point that we get to. These light posts, he expresses them the whole time for the entire franchise. And he doesn't let up the third movie. And then when he's talking about the light posts, he always talks about, oh, there's all this industrial stuff, all these places of work. Like, we all know, just by the context, a lot of people work at Nerve. how many people do you actually ever see? And all the other screenshots, how many people are just out there doing work? He does a lot of technical work, like technical design, but he's not fond of doing the people in the background. And where does he go with all this? I think it also comes into play with his relationship with some developments that came to light when Miyazaki was talking about Anno being cast in a voice role with Rises in his final movie. He said the reason why that Anno had to be the voice was because in the movie Jiro from Wind Rises, he's very obsessed with his work. He's making a war machine. He's not intending to kill people with it, but he's an airplane designer, so he's just going forward with the work that he knows. This is the work that he's passionate about. He wants to build planes, design beautiful planes. And through all that, you have the Second World War starting up, and his planes being used for all sorts of things. But he has to take this window that he has now to do his hobby, to do his work, to express himself. And it reminds me of another quote where Anno says that he doesn't mind what he does in the industry, but when it comes to Evangelion, he says he has to direct it. Like he'll do another show and just work as an animation director. He might just do keyframes. He might just do storyboards. He says he's open to anything, but for Evangelion, he has to direct. So it feels like there's something important he has to do there. And I think it comes, it starts coming full circle. You see all these things he's talking about, where, move on. Oh yes, this is, well, we're always going to come full circle. One of his big influences is Gundam, and in the first issue, well not the first issue, but if you buy the first hardback collection of Gundam New Origin, they pretty much have the original character designer go through and visually redo the entire original Gundam story with improved modern manga visuals. And at the end of the first hardcover, you get an insert by Hideaki Anno. And these are all quotes from him. And it goes more to say what he says on the industry. He wrote this in 2005, and he doesn't start production on the rebuilds until 2006. The first quote, "I'm afraid the legacy of Gundam has dwindled down to the mobile suits," which is kind of true. If you look back at the original one, it was a big war that was happening because Tomino wanted to tell a war story. Tomino was the director of Gundam. Yeah, Tomino was influenced by Starship Troopers. He wanted to do like a real scientific, not sci-fi fantasy in space. He wanted to do, I want to tell a war story in space, but they wouldn't let him. They're like, you have to put a giant robot in it. So he put the Gundam, and then it kicked off like a whole genre where robots are more realized. They're not just like, oh, it's just a robot. There's not much to it. You can put its arm back on and it pops off like a little model, but it gave them a genre to work with. And what happened in pretty much almost right away with the genre is that they tried to make the franchise all about the machines. Tomino himself is on record for saying he doesn't want special editions of any of the robot toys, especially like, if you ever see like a red version of a toy, it's like, oh look, it's Char Asimov's red mobile suit. Tomino didn't ever want that, he didn't want to sell, just repaints of toys, just for special editions. They weren't really fond of the merchandising and all the focus on machines. They liked the machines, but it wasn't meant to be their focus, it was to be the story. And then you go on to hear in this excerpt from, not excerpt, this essay that he has at the end of the book. Hideaki Anno continues to write. He writes a lot, it's like 2 pages, but I pulled out some just important quotes. In recent years, the world anime manga too, that's supposed to link up to the first one. It's, anime stopped, it's his opinion that anime has stopped appealing, well not appealing, trying to be a story. It's been to pander to people, fan service, etc. It's we see it all around every now and then, but not every now and then, most often. And it's pretty much something he's exhausted with. Typos. And here we are in a stagnant state of affairs. I'm stuck here myself. It's embarrassing and frustrating, and I also regret that I contributed to it. I think it's a very telling statement that for what he's eventually planning to do. He goes on to say, as for me, I'll do my best so my next project comes across as a tale. Because a tale is one of those stories, not meant to focus on robots, that's meant to be focused on merchandising, things to sell. It's supposed to be focused on the story. And so Hideaki Anno says that a year later, hey, we're going to make a new Evangelion movie. And at first, it's going to come out that, you see the first movie, it's pretty much the polished up, kind of like these books are to the, how these books treat the original Gundam series. You have the original story, polished up, some things are swapped around, but it's trying to mature along with the audience. Oh yeah. And there's the other part that you get to is that, actually, we'll see just a second. Well, now I'll have to train on entirely. What did I just say? Oh yeah, his next project to come across as a tale. Oh yeah, the second movie comes across as, you start to see him like looking around, it's like, oh, he's taking his own advice, he's trying to do something different. So when you finally get to the third movie, you wonder why everything is completely off the wall. Like, oh, well, what happened with the robots? What happened with, why is that ship there? Oh, what about that location that we once knew? What about all these characters that suddenly we don't see anymore? Why are there all these new characters? It's, when I go back to everything else he's been saying this whole time for pretty much years, it's literally he took the franchise by the ankles and is shaking it to get something to fall out of it. He pretty much, you gotta destroy something to make something new. And I think that's exactly his intention. Like, everyone's expecting, oh yeah, we're gonna get these new robots. Oh, what happened to the last robot? You watch the movie, they talk about the robots, they're plot points, they're important plot points. But they're kind of throwaway at the same time. Like they all have the same carbon copy thing. It wouldn't work because each one had its own place in the plot. But they're integrated with the plots. They're not just there for fan service in terms of people who just like to watch the fights. They're there, but it's there to shake loose everything. Like, try not to pull any giant direct spoilers, but I assume everyone probably has seen the movie by now. Anyone not seen the movie? Okay, good. Like when you get to the ship, when the Wunder first is trying to take off, because they got all the mass production, what do you call them, drones, and they're all coming to see. You don't actually ever see much of those angels, well not angels, but like Angel, Eva, drone hybrid thing they got going on. They sound a lot like the angels. And you don't see them, they're not like, they pull them out of the water when you go, I guess you see them, they don't look that impressive. They're not memorable like past angel designs, they're just kind of throwaway. They're not meant to be something to stick on. You see Ava Unit 13, the dual entry mode one, it just looks like a four-armed Ava 1. It's not that particularly special. You see Ava 2 Dash, and it's kind of like the original one. It's got a little crest on it, but that's all different. It has a really grotesque animal form. It's like exactly when he made the movies. He made the Evangelion movie. People complained, hey, you don't have enough stuff going on here that we want. So what did he do? He took everything everybody wanted, and he stepped on it. It's like people are like, we're not satisfied with the ending of episode 25 and 26. Redo it and give us what we want. So he made a movie that really made everyone else upset. And all the death threats that he got from the movie, not all of them, he got actual death threats. And towards the end of the movie, we were just showing like stuff in real life, like pretty much it's not animation, it's just pictures from life. He actually has those death threats in the movie. So if you like go there and start pausing, you'll see the death threats he got sent from the end of the show in the movie. And I think that's kind of his long-term plan for the Ava rebuild movies. He's giving us what we want. Oh, he starts baiting us along with the second movie. He's like, oh yeah, now everything's like better. Like, I like that thing, but now it's even better. It's appealing to exactly what we want for the second movie. You get to the third movie, I don't think I got anything I wanted out of it, but it's so interesting how everything got that way. Like, I really could go on explanation. I'm upset with the movie, but I'm glad to be upset with the movie because I think we can go to here. One of the complaints that you get about the movies and the show itself is that, oh, everything's been done better. It's been overrated. It's bad. It's just logical. Isn't the people hate Shinji? It's like, oh yeah, you hate characters, so I think it's not to watch the entire one of the best franchises in the industry. And it all comes down to the argument of it's imperfect. It's like, plus, this goes on to something that Evangelion usually does pretty well, like the TV show, the movies. It's the idea that Evangelion is so interesting and relatable because it's all these stories, all these ideas, all these character motivations coming out of Hideaki Anno himself and people he knows. It's not like you'll see a better, like, can you think of a better story you've ever seen in a show? Yes, especially when you come to the third movie. Have you ever seen a better story than the third movie? Yeah. Have you ever seen better characters? Like, I like a lot of the characters in Ava. I wouldn't put many of them in my top 5, maybe? Probably put them in my top 5. The robots are actually pretty well designed and interesting. The other thing about the franchise, you have interesting things that are always done better somewhere else, but since they're coming from his own inspirations, his own experiences, they meld together to make a much better, it's what all these quotes are. I just like went internet fishing for quotes on this. Aristotle says, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. When you get to Wagnerian opera, it's an old composer, he made operas. And one of the things he did is combine all the songs in the opera to all, like, each song in the opera might not be the best, but because of how Wagner combined them all of a sudden you had like all these themes running through each track. Well, you don't have tracks back in the 19th century. All the music makes a much better whole than just having like, you know when you, like the Final Fantasy VI soundtrack, I'll pull that up as an example. You hear the same ideas behind a lot of the tracks. They'll just get repeated over and over. And it's like different take, but it's one of the best soundtracks of all time. Well, in my opinion anyways. Because it's all got these connected threads. And I got quotes even down to like, Tolkien says it as well. Like, the last paragraph I think is really good. Like, whenever someone picks apart Evangelion, especially the third movie, they'll find a single thread. They'll find a character, a motive. That doesn't make sense. And they'll try and destroy the whole work upon that. And I think that really dodges what makes Evangelion, especially the third movie, so interesting. And you can apply a few more quotes to otakuism in general. It's just that when you're an otaku, you're always watching shows every year. Well, you might not watch all the shows every year, you might watch like one show, 2 shows. But one thing everyone comes up is, back to a few panels ago, oh, this show's bad, don't watch it. And I think I have a clip pulled from Genshiken of all shows that I find is really good relating why that's the whole movie itself is perhaps I like all the rebuild movies, but the third movie I like for the concept that they pretty much talk about in this little clip.
原作の方は2部に変えて新キャラ登場で大変なことになってますよね。
今となっては懐かしいんだよ、アレックス。
ダイソー周辺じゃ貴重な新作カットですよね。すっげえ気入ってるし。ねえ、なんでそんな何度も繰り返して見るわけ？面白い？いや、そんな根本的なことを聞かれてもね。今、面白いか面白くないかっていうと、面白いから見るわけです。
And that's probably one of my favorite quotes from a show. Because I use that whenever people are just talking to me about, like, oh, why are you watching the show? Like, oh, you saw Evangelion? Wasn't that a really bad movie? Oh, yeah, it wasn't like the other movies. Those made sense. And all of a sudden they put all this stuff in. And I have to reply with that quote every time that Madarame says at the end of the clip. What makes Evangelion really, really good from the TV show, and all these threads that are always connecting, all these themes that run through the show, and when you get to the movies, it's really interesting to see if it's going to be good. You have one of the largest franchises that reshape genres. It's still really quality. You go back and watch any of the shows, the directorship's really good, animation's great. The music in the series is unique. I didn't notice too much of it in the movies that stood out. But it's all about, it's not whether the movies are great, it's watching them and finding out if they are great. And it brings me to another quote from Anno. I try to include everything of myself in the Neogenesis of Evangelion. Myself, broken man who did nothing for 4 years, a man who ran away for 4 years, one who was simply not dead. And I thought, can't run away, came to me. Then I restarted this production. It was a production where my only thought was to bring my feelings into film. I know that my behavior was thoughtless, troublesome, and arrogant. Hideaki Anno, again, another book by him. He's quite brilliant. And I think this wraps up exactly what goes on in the movie. You have, but it's not, it's more meta than that. It's not what's going on in the movie itself. He's trying to talk about what's going on, because this is talking about the show, but the third movie is him trying to express to us through animation how he feels about the industry, where he wants it to go. It's him using animation as a tool to say, here's one of the biggest franchises that everyone knows and loves. I'm going to take it and do stuff with it that he never thought was possible before. So now we sit here looking at the fourth movie coming out. Oh, and we have only a preview from the other third movie, which is a fight scene. But we have the fourth movie coming out to one of the most influential franchises of all time. And what do we have to go by expectations? We can't tell what's going to happen. Because he's always, I feel the point of the third movie was to show that whatever you think might happen, like, oh, this will be a good day, this will run from here, this will run from here, he doesn't mind completely ruining certain aspects of the franchise in order to break into new territory. And I feel the movie itself, that way, it's a commentary on the entire industry itself. Oh, the industry's stagnant, it's been saying for years. If you just break the industry itself, do something completely nuts, people will be like, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. But as long as you change things, I think that's what he's going for. I believe that's all my panels. We got any questions going forth? Yep.
I don't want to get into plot territory, but I think it's really relevant. Do you think that the promos is at the end of 2? There was some content that we didn't end up seeing in 3, correct?
Yes.
I got a good theory for these guys.
Okay, well, I don't want to get into theory land, because that could take years. But then the promo at the end of 2 and 3, do you think that's really even part of what he wants to do? Or maybe he gets his casting impulsiveness to do it? Because I really don't even, after the end of 3, do you really think that promos are even relevant? Do you think he does them because he wants to give you a taste of what's to come? Or that he does them because, well, maybe I'm going to go do that?
I think it's, see, as much as he seems to want to change the industry, he seems to be really happy with the ways it operates. Like the next episode previews, he's doing the next movie previews. You don't usually see those things, but they're done exactly how they were done in the series. And so I think it's his way of playing with us, not fully. Like the first movie, like the series, preview, like the series. Second movie, oh, it's a bit different than the series. Oh, you're getting a continuation of what's going on in the series. So now, and then you get the third movie is completely freaking different. And so, and like the preview for the third movie was just, well, what's the organization called in the, Will?
Wiley.
Yeah, Willie, Will. You see, while there, Ava's fighting a whole bunch of Ava copy things. And it's just a fight scene. So all we have to go, like, everyone's question is, what's going to happen? You just, like, blew up the world again, everyone's upset again, people got hurt, stuff that you wouldn't even have been able to guess happened, stuff you couldn't even see coming, has come and gone. And so we're in such new territory. You go back to that one picture with, you bring this final picture from the movie. Down there, the movie just ended, they're all walking off. None of them have their ages at the moment. You have Asuka pulling Shinji along because he doesn't know what's going on. You have Rey following. And it pans up to actually show them walking. You see their footsteps in that picture, but you just see them walking off. And you see 3 mecha pilots walking off above the mecha at the end of the movie about mecha, and the next preview shows them with a whole bunch of mecha. And it's just like, where's it going to go? You have Shinji that everyone at the new good guy organization, they really hate him. And you got Asuka, she hates him, Rey doesn't care. So you don't really know what's going to happen with him. And you've seen Shinji take such strides as a character in the movie. Well, mostly in the second movie, he takes lots of strides as a character. In the third one, he tries fixing things, still screws it up. He doesn't really screw it up, it's more of a trick or whatever, but he's broken once again. Well, where is he going to go? He's shown that he can screw up more than ever before. He's shown he can also man up like never before in the series. So you don't know where his character's going to go. Asuka's a different bag of beans from the TV show. Like, and Rey is Rey. You can tell there's not a lot going on. Like, she'll do some things where she discovers the emotions maybe. But you don't know where it's going to go. And that actually brings me up to another point about, I say Shinji's not usually the self-insert character for the show. Well, he often is, but not everyone disregards the other characters not being inserts. You can really see how Shinji is also still that insert as usual. If you just replace like saving the world with saving anime, you get a really good glimpse of what analysts are trying to do. Like here's the anime industry. Pretend it's movie 2 again. He's going to fix it. He's working on all these projects, and then he just stops on animation. Some time passes, he comes back to it. He's going to fix it for good this time. And what you see happen? Oh, special edition of this robot's coming out. Oh, look at all the merchandise coming out. He understands that merchandise has to be a thing, but there it is. He, in his attempt to fix the industry, he is already acknowledging that, in a way, he's perpetuating at the same time. In some of the previous quotes, it's pretty aware that he knows he's doing the wrong things, but also he's apologizing. It was the very last quote, I think, on the last panel. It's like, I'm being kind of selfish, but I just want to get my ideas across through animation. Yep.
Why do you think everybody hates Shinji? It seems like they don't actually.
It's
Because they see themselves in
actually no. Well, first I'll say what I did, but what you said is also really interesting. One is plot reasons. And by what I mean by plot reasons, it's the usual mumbo jumbo you can dive into. Like, oh, there's this and that. Oh, he caused the near end of the world again. Oh, he was absorbed into an Ava, then that Ava popped him back out. So they're all like, oh, they even say it, it's like, is he human anymore? They're not really treating him like a person. They just think he's some sort of specimen. You're not giving, like, no one is really giving him the time of day on that ship when he's there. And so they kind of think he's dangerous, and he's not really the Shinji they knew. And plus, you know, they kind of live and destroy the world. And what she said was also pretty good, is that they see himself, they see themselves in him. Care to elaborate on that one?
Basically, that's why a lot of fans hate him, because when fans go into everything, they go for fantasy versus reality. And when you suddenly get thrust a character like in front of you that reminds you so much of yourself, you start hating them because you secretly hate yourself.
Yeah, we're talking about fans. The fan impression of Shinji, that's a whole bag of meat. You probably just do a panel on that. Because up until Evangelion, you didn't have that many pain pilots. You go back to the original shows, you got the guys with, you know, massive sideburns, shouting things, breaking down walls. And in fact, the first pilot of the Mazinger Z was a jerk. Go on, man. A lot of mech pilots, they usually get their stuff together going, get the pilots from Gundam that the early shows where they really don't want a pilot fighting the war. But they man up to it. Shinji was the first character that, like, if you listen to the Evangelion opening theme, it's all like, hey kid, you're gonna be great, you're gonna be a legend, you're gonna kick some butt. And then he doesn't. Like the show starts shaping up, kind of like what the movies did, the rebuilds do in a different way. That you get this guy that, oh, he doesn't want a pilot, oh, he's gonna do it reluctantly. He starts getting his own reasons to do it. He wants to hear his father's praise. And then his whole world was falling apart on him. And now, like, people are like, oh, but he's just going to man up. Oh, Bright Noah's going to come and slap him like in that Super Robot working. He's going to be like, all right, I'll get back in and do it okay. But once you start getting older, you start getting a lot more tragedies going on in your life. And there's some events that might not be so big for some people, but will just take everything out of you. And people really, like she said, like they see themselves in Shinji. They don't like it. And it goes through the movies too. You get this guy, like, I was an action hero. Yeah, I do that. Hey, Shinji's finally doing what I'm doing. And then he kind of flops around again. Just being whiny. Yeah, that's what we complain about this thing. He's whiny. I don't feel too much on that one. Did I clarify that one enough, or will they?
Nobody hates him though in the show. Like, he thinks
Oh.
they hate him, but he wasn't killed by Messiah. Asuka did come back for him. Like, it's just kind of in his mind. Like,
Yeah, that's
for the most part.
a pretty good point. Like Toji's sister is all like, "Hey, how's it going?" Ritsuko's just all like, "Whatever. Here's what happened to you." She really wasn't too caring of love in the first place. Misawa was kind of busy, but she also didn't give him the time of day too much. But when you think about it, from the fourth angel attack in the movie, when the thing that looks like a spoon attacked, their laser tentacles. In the original show, there's kind of like, oh, Shinji, we disobeyed our rules by attacking. And then he quits and he leaves. In the movie, when I watched the first rebuild, doesn't she outright slap him? Like, just like, hey, you disobeyed rules. And he's like, well, I'm going to cry about it. And I think she wallops someone.
She's saying no.
No, she goes ahead and grabs him,
Oh,
gets really
grab.
angry, and then afterwards she slaps herself.
Okay, I haven't watched that one in a year, so.
she's mad at herself.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's my train of thought again? Yeah, my train of thought just completely ran away. Yes.
Again, I don't want to well a lot. Do you think Anno ever really wants to answer some of the questions that he's raised about the plot? Like, why is everything red? What's with all those dead robots? What, does he even really want to answer those questions, do you think? Or does he really, is he more about the journey than the answer at this point?
I think he's entirely about the journey. Like, even with the end of the first TV show, people are like, oh, budget constraints. Even with a budget constraint, like, oh, you had to throw together something, you could have done a lot better of an ending.
Yeah, I don't think he ever meant to have a literal, like, this is what is happening on screen. And then he attempts to show things with the end of the Evangelion movie, but I don't think he ever meant for there to be spoon feeding the plot to you.
Yeah. It's, when everyone's sitting around at the end of the TV show and they're just clapping congratulations. Like, people want like a real ending. I think the TV show ending is, it's interesting to talk about. I wouldn't say it's the best, but I do like it. But when you get to there, the whole last few episodes are surreal. It's like some sort of post-humanity time. It's pretty much like, hey, we're going to explore your minds and we get to choose if mankind lives on. You choose to say live on, they all show up around like, hey, thanks for letting us live. And to tie to the point where, does he want to go on? I'm going to, whether he wants to get you to explain it, I'm going to say no, because people demanded, oh, that ending was horrible, give us something better. The first half of Evangelion looks like a story. The second half of it's back to episode 25 and 26 again, and then you get an ending that makes less sense than the TV show ending. Because the TV show ending happens, Third Impact happens, Shinji, you spend 2 episodes going in everyone's head, and Shinji goes, you know what, Third Impact happens, since I'm in Eva, I get to choose what happens, I'm going to not have it happen, have everyone come back. The world sucks, but I'm going to live in it with everybody else, I'm going to accept all the crap that goes on. In the movie, he decides, well, everyone kind of, they still suck. And he gets rid of them all. And then you get like a consolation prize ending, like, oh, look, not everyone's dead. The last person alive hates you, but there's still somebody. She does say at the very end, Asuka says, oh yeah, I hate you. It's the last time the movie didn't get like credits. So he was given 2 chances to end the series with some sort of like, all right, are they going to happen after? What happens to everybody? And both times he pretty much said, you're not going to get a good answer. So this time, I don't think we're going to get a good answer. There could be the thing to end sequels, like what Rowling wanted to do with Harry Potter. In a way, she wanted to kill off Harry Potter at the end of the 7th book, so you wouldn't get any sequels. Oh look, there's nothing left. You can't run with this franchise anymore. It's over. And I think that's part of, if he leaves an ambiguous ending, that might be open. I don't think anyone will ever touch Evangelion that isn't Anno for animation for like a decade or more. I lost the end of the point. Any other questions? Yep.
Unit 1. What the heck?
It's a whale now, I'm sorry.
Well, to be fair, the twin entry plug unit 13, I think it was essentially unit 1 anyways.
It looked a lot like it.
Yeah,
Unit 1
I know
was...
it's not unit 1, but it was almost a carbon copy, but not quite.
Yeah, I think there's like a schematic that popped up another one, like 2 entry plugs based off like whatever schematic they had for it.
They also basically cemented that the whole mother soul thing that is not present at all in 3.0 because mother soul is already one, and we all know that so there's no soul in the
Well, also angels can synchronize with Betas pretty easy. As for what actually happened with Unit 1, when the movie opens up and they're getting Shinji out of orbit, Ava 1's in there. Like, what was brought up earlier is that Shinji popped out of the, he was stored for 14 years as LCL in episode 21, where he just gets absorbed and he's pretty much tomato soup, like chicken soup. He eats pretty much soup for not just a few months, he just pops out after 14 years, exactly as he was. Because Ava 1 was in that big orbiting thing. That's what takes up the angel when Asuka opens up that big orbiting black cross thing. Ava 1 was in there, Shinji was in there, preserved as soup. And they take that and they just like jam it into the engine of their flying whale. And now it's a super whale ship with wings. I don't know what's going on with that ship. I think that ship is... Yeah, I say like the movie's interesting because there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. But I can't think of like any questions to even ask about shipping. Like, I have more questions about like the fact that when that ship's flying away, regular Navy vessels are flying alongside it, like flying, and they're not in the water. So maybe, but even then, ships have a curved bow. They like if you're sitting on the 18th, they like fall over or something.
Engines.
Yeah. That whole ship thing. If anyone has an idea on why they have a giant spaceship. Yep.
They don't want Shinji piloting, and his Unit 1 is now like God mode, so instead they just use it to fly it.
Yeah.
Because I guess you can't kill humanity by flying.
They took it out because Shinji was self-sufficient. They wanted to pilot it.
I think the fact that this is kind of love the ship, love the engine. Fiddling with the computer makes me forget about it again. Happens every time. So, what point were we just talking about? With the ship,
We were talking about Unit 1.
it's Unit 1. I had nothing to say about Unit 1. Oh, yeah. In the original show, when Unit 1 kills off that angel in episode 20, Jerry Walker's like, he eats it and absorbs the S2 engine, which is pretty much something to let it run forever without external power. That's probably why, because those same events kind of sort of still happen in the movies. And so you have this engine that no one really knows how it operates, gives off lots of power, you see what like an angel can do. They're all running on those little S2 engines, those little red globes. And so they're not really using Unit 1 as the engine, they're using Unit 1's S2 engine as the engine. Yeah. And that's why that ship spins really fast. I don't know, that ship, it confuses me every time I think about it.
I don't know. I'm still trying to wrap my head around why in the third movie Masato hates Shinji so much when she told him to end the world.
That's why she hates him
when
so much.
she
Inexplicably
told-
started the thing she absolutely hates her dad for.
She told him to end the world, essentially.
She didn't mean to. She thought he was just doing a good thing, getting Ray back. And then when she saw the catastrophe, she probably got really angry at herself because she already gave him that second impact. So that she accidentally helped him start third impact. So now she hates herself and him because she hates herself.
Well, I'll be like everybody else, because that's my big group. What they're saying is one of the reasons why Masato's really upset with Shinji in the third movie is stuff I kind of forgot about, but when the third impact started to happen at the end of the second movie, the one who told him to go after the most important person was Masato. She was like, hey, go do this. And then it turns out it's going to end the world. Second impact is, as she said, was caused by her father. She pretty much just ordered third impact to happen, and she hated her dad for so much as well. So she just did what her dad did, something that she was trying to prevent the whole time. And she just kind of caused it by using somebody else. And she's kind of just, part of her reason is she's just really angry at him. But she's actually angry at herself because, once again, she caused it. It goes back to when she hits herself back after she throws him around for a while. She's a bit more self-hating in this. In a different way. Like last time, she was self-hating, and it's like, hey, Kachi, how's it going? And you got that ball.
She was pretty self-hating in the show.
Yeah, but then she had an outlet for it back in the show.
You know, she drank the whole time, and then Kachi died, and then kind of went crazy, and then okay, I'm gonna solve and murder. So yeah, I wouldn't say she was that well adjusted in the show.
Yeah, she at least had an outlet for it. Now her outlet is being an angry cat. Anything else going on? Technically, my outlet was 45 minutes to 8. But when they scheduled this morning, they gave me like an hour, so I had way too much time. How much time do we have left?
4 minutes.
4 minutes. Oh, that's pretty good then. Yeah, I'm supposed to have a 45-minute panel, but they gave me an hour when they moved me up to this morning block. So I'm flat out of stuff to talk about. Well, not out of stuff to talk about, but like I can talk a lot about what goes on, but I won't hold anyone up for this. Just remember, whatever he's going to say in the 4th movie, it's going to be some sort of, I'm going to be looking at as a commentary on a franchise and the industry and something with a capstone on the franchise itself, all the movies, all the TV shows. It's going to be fairly meta, I think. Like how, yeah, he's just going to, and it's not all going to be like the major plot points. Like I showed earlier in the panel, he's talking about expressing himself through a hobby. He's showing lots of little examples. Piano playing is a hobby, showing is a hobby. He's showing all sorts of kinds of ways other characters are using the same exact thing that he does to express himself. That's top tier hobby. I think for a lot of us, I think it's pretty much the same. We're all here this weekend, aren't we? Well, thanks for attending. I'm sorry I didn't have an extra 50 minutes of content, but...
We had an extra long Q&A session, and that's okay.
Yeah, well, only a few minutes. Alrighty.
Yeah,